Most of the iconic locations in Middle-earth were inspired by real places Tolkien saw in his life. The Shire, the Dead Marshes, the Glittering Caves, they all have a root in our world. And yet so many of us feel like we have to pull our fantasy worlds out of thin air. That pressure is the very thing that leads us to creating worlds that feel generic and lifeless, leaving our best stories to die in the saggy middle. So in this video, I'm going to present a different way. I'm going to give you 7 of the most bizarre places on Earth, and I'll show you how to look at them not as a tourist, but as a storyteller, so you can find the unique inspiration that will make your world unforgettable. Our journey begins in the heart of a vast cold desert at night. There are no cities, no lights, nothing but a horizon of blackness. But in front of you is a hole in the earth, wider than a jumbo jet, and it is full of fire. Now this isn't a fantasy world. This is the Darvaza gas crater in Turkmenistan, better known as the Gates of Hell. In 1971, Soviet geologists lit it on fire to burn off poisonous gas, assuming it would die out in a few weeks. That was over 50 years ago, and it has been burning ever since. Now, a tourist here sees a spectacle, but a storyteller asks a question. What happens when a world is defined by a mistake that can never be corrected? From this one idea, an entire culture can emerge. Imagine a society defined by atonement, where the descendants of those who lit the fire are bound by a sacred oath to serve as its eternal guardians. Their lives are not their own, they are a living sacrifice, their every action dictated by an ancestor's single moment of hubris. Or you could explore a story of fragile survival. What if the fire's unnatural heat is the only thing that makes the surrounding frozen tundra habitable? The people who live there don't see a disaster, they see a miracle. Their entire society is built in the shadow of this wound, depending for its very existence on the warmth of a fire that could one day consume them all. This is how you find the story inside a place. You don't just describe what you see, you ask what it means. So a place can be a monument to a single irreversible mistake. But what happens when a place doesn't tell you its story at all? What happens when it only gives you a single maddening clue? Well, there are a few places on Earth more quietly wrong than the Crooked Forest in western Poland. Here, a patch of some 400 pine trees do something that shouldn't be possible. Every single tree, just above the ground, bends at a sharp 90-degree angle before curving back up towards the sky in a perfect uniform arc. While scientists have theories, no one knows for sure. Some argue that a unique heavy snowfall pinned the young saplings down, forcing them to grow sideways before correcting towards the sun. Others speculate it was a deliberate human act, that the trees were shaped by foresters in the 1930s, possibly for creating uniquely curved furniture or even parts for boat hulls. But the records are lost, the surroundings were largely abandoned during the Second World War, and so the truth remains a mystery. And that uncertainty is the gift for us here. Because the question this place asks is, what if the world itself is trying to tell us something? The strangeness suggests an intention, making this one question open up a dozen different paths. Is the forest a living compass, with the trees bending to point towards a hidden source of magic that your protagonist must find? Is it a territorial marking, a warning from a powerful unseen entity, letting travelers know they are crossing into a place where the normal laws of nature no longer apply? Or is it maybe a form of communication, a living script that only a chosen few can read, holding a secret that has been hiding in plain sight for centuries? This is the power of such a place. By embedding a single quiet, unexplainable question into the very soil of your world, you can let your story become the discovery of its answer. So a world can be haunted by its past, or it can whisper a message to the present. But what happens when a place has no past we can recognize? What happens when its very existence feels like an invasion from another world entirely? Welcome to Socotra Island. This island is so profoundly isolated that a third of its plant life exists nowhere else on Earth. The landscape confronts you with bizarre bottle trees that look like swollen alien limbs, and the iconic dragon's blood trees which bleed a thick crimson sap when cut. The very air feels different here, as if you stepped into a biological experiment left to run for a million years. A place this alien forces a different kind of world-building question. How would a society evolve if it were forged by a world that defies all expectations? This question forces us to move beyond just describing weird visuals. It forces us to build a culture from the ground up, based on the unique pressures of its environment. I mean, think about it. In a world where the most valuable resource is the living, bleeding sap of a tree, how would that shape a culture's economy, its religion, its art? When nature is already surreal, would architecture imitate its chaotic organic shapes? Or would it rebel with stark geometric cities built in defiance of the world around them? Would outsiders be seen as gods or as a contagion that threatens to unravel their fragile, unique home? This is how you build a truly alien world. You use the strangeness of the place as a blueprint to forge a unique culture, complete with its own source of conflict, its own artistic traditions, and its own deep-seated fears. So the ecosystem itself can become the blueprint for your culture. But what if a location's defining feature isn't a vibrant, thriving ecosystem, but a haunting, perfect stillness? This is Lake Natron in Tanzania, one of the most serene and lethal bodies of water on the planet. Its water is a stunning crimson red, not from blood, but from bacteria that thrive in its unique chemistry. This lake is an alkaline trap, with a pH as high as a corrosive household bleach. It's so saturated with a chemical called natron, the same salt compound used by the ancient Egyptians for mummification, that it essentially embalms any animal that dies in its waters. They are literally calcified, turned into ghastly stone-like statues and left to dry on the shoreline in a macabre exhibit of nature's power. This scene is beautiful, silent, and permanent. This place offers a haunting insight. The stillness here, this world without decay, is a powerful engine for stories about grief, memory, and obsession. And its most powerful question is, what happens when a place refuses to let go of the past? Imagine a kingdom whose revered ancestors are not buried, but are perfectly preserved in these waters, their bodies lining the shores for generations to see. It's a society built on the refusal to move on, where the past is a physical, daily presence. Just consider what kind of conflicts that would create. A story about forbidden love, where a young royal falls for someone deemed unworthy, a crime in the eyes of the imperfectly preserved statues of their ancestors who watched from the shore. Or a story of revolution, where a new leader argues that this obsession with the dead is precisely what's holding their society back, and that true progress requires them to finally let their ancestors go. In this stillness, we find a profound truth about storytelling. The greatest conflicts aren't always born from movement and change. Sometimes the most powerful stories emerge from a world that is tragically, beautifully stuck. A culture so in love with its past that it is willing to sacrifice its future. But while a place can be frozen in its reverence for the past, what happens if instead it's haunted by a past it desperately wants to forget? Now, this is Hashima Island in Japan, better known by its nickname Battleship Island. For nearly a century, it was a symbol of Japan's rapid industrialization, a concrete fortress built on a tiny rock to access the rich undersea coal seams below. It was a city in miniature, with apartments, schools, and hospitals, all crammed together, making it, for a time, the most densely populated place on the entire planet. Then, in 1974, as petroleum replaced coal, the mine was closed and the city was evacuated almost overnight. Now, in fantasy, when we think of a ruin, we usually imagine crumbling stone towers and ivy-covered walls. But there is no romance to these ruins, only the stark reality of industry. And this inspires a storyteller to ask a question rooted in classic fantasy. What happens when a society's greatest achievement becomes its tomb? For example, imagine a clan of dwarves who, instead of carving mountains, build this impenetrable fortress to mine a rare magical resource from the ocean floor. Perhaps solidified starlight or the bones of a dead sea god. Their greed could lead them to dig too deep, awakening a primordial leviathan that shattered their city from below, and the ruin is now a testament to their avarice. Or what if instead it was a great mage's spire, a university city dedicated to controlling the ocean, where mages learn to command the tides. Their ultimate ritual, an attempt to raise a new continent from the seabed, failed catastrophically, flash petrifying everyone inside. The protagonist must now venture into the silent city of statues to find the one ritual book that can prevent the catastrophe from happening again. You see, Hashima Island is a potent reminder that even the most industrial-looking places can be powerful stages for the classic fantasy themes of hubris, ambition, and the tragic fall of a great civilization. So, as we've just seen, a city can become a monument to ambition. But our world also holds places that ambition has never even reached. Natural fortresses so ancient and isolated, they feel like remnants of a time before our own. Welcome to Mount Roraima. It's a Tepui, a tabletop mountain, one of the oldest geological formations on Earth, soaring thousands of feet above the surrounding jungle. Its sheer vertical cliffs are constantly assaulted by rain and shrouded in clouds, creating an island in the sky. For millions of years, this plateau has been completely cut off from the world below. That isolation has created a truly alien ecosystem, a biological laboratory with black frogs, carnivorous plants, and unique species found nowhere else on the planet. It's so otherworldly that it was a direct inspiration for Sir Arthur Conan Doyle's classic novel The Lost World. And this place inspires one of the most powerful questions a world builder can ask. What happens when a society has no outside? When your entire world is trapped on a single escapable plateau, how does that shape a culture? I mean, think about it. Your characters can't just go to the next town to find a solution. They cannot escape the consequences of their action. This question is the perfect engine for stories about dogma, revolution, and discovery. Imagine a society that believes their mountain is the entire world, and the clouds below are the edge of creation. You might have the protagonist see a bird fly out of the clouds and suddenly realize their entire religion is a lie. Then the quest suddenly becomes an act of heresy, to find a way down, to prove that there is more to the world than they've been taught. Or what if they know about the world below, but believe it was destroyed in a cataclysm? They might live in a paradise, a sanctuary from a poisoned world. And the conflict begins when they discover the poison is gone. The outside world has healed, and their leaders have been lying for generations to maintain control, turning their paradise into a prison. In this, we see that one of the most powerful world-building tools isn't always what you add, but what you take away. By building walls around your story, you force the conflict to turn inward, creating an intense stage for character and theme that a sprawling open world could never match. But while being high above the world can be isolating, sometimes it's about being buried beneath it, surrounded by the silent judging faces of the dead. This is the Catacomb of Paris. It was never meant to be a tomb, it was always just a solution. In the late 18th century, the cemeteries of Paris were overflowing, a source of disease and horror. So in a feat of macabre engineering, the city moved its dead. Night after night, for years, processions of black draped carts carried the remains of millions into the city's abandoned limestone quarries. You can walk for miles through cool damp air that smell of old stone and finality. The tunnels are lined not with rock but with the chilling architecture of mortality, walls of neatly stacked femurs and tibias, decorated with garlands of grinning skulls. A place like this isn't just about history, it's about geography. It creates a second hidden world right under the first, inspiring our final question: what kind of society would be born in a world without a sky? With all the dead surrounding us here, this shifts our focus to the living. Who would choose to live in such a place? Well, likely outcasts, refugees, or a secret society that has rejected the sunlight world above. Imagine a culture whose values are a perfect inversion of the surface. Where the sunlit world values space, status, and noise, the Undercity might value silence, secrets, and anonymity. The entire economy would be built on what the world above throws away. This creates a powerful engine for stories about class, secrets, and the clash between two worlds occupying the same space. A Sundweller hero might be forced to descend into this alien culture to find a lost artifact, while an Underdweller protagonist might venture to the terrifyingly open and bright surface for the first time. The power of this concept is in its simplicity. By creating a society defined by what it lacks, something as fundamental as the sun, you can forge a culture that is truly fascinatingly alien, existing right under our feet. Which means by now we've seen how a single question can transform a burning crater into a story about mistakes, a quiet forest into a story about secrets, and a forgotten city into a story about hubris. You don't need to invent your world from thin air. The world we have is already full of questions. Your only job is to find them and to give them an unforgettable answer. A powerful stage is only half the battle. The characters who walk that stage need tools that feel just as unique and story-driven as the world itself. Because giving your hero a generic sword in an alien landscape instantly shatters the immersion you've worked so hard to build. That's why you need to watch this video here next, where I'll show you 7 real-world bizarre weapons that will not only make your fight scenes unforgettable, but will also reshape the way your characters think, fight, and survive.